Hello everyone and welcome to South Tipperary Beekeepers Association Apiary here in Bulmer's Orchards, Powerstown, Clonmel. My name is Declan Shea and I'm one of the association beekeepers. We will be going through a hive shortly. The bees we keep here are the native Irish bee, Apis mellifera mellifera. These are probably one of the best bees in the world in that they are able to store huge excesses of honey in a good year, allowing the beekeeper to take off a crop. The purpose of today's inspection will be to see that the bees are now in winter preparation mode. They should be getting ready for the winter, slowing down. The queen bee will be slowing her laying in that she will be going from maybe laying 2,000 eggs a day to maybe 500 eggs a day. The bees that will be in the hive now in the next month or so will be the bees that we'll see again in February or March. These will be the winter bees that live at least 6 months, 5 to 6 months. The summer bees are totally different in that they have a working life and they only live for approximately 6 to 7 weeks. As we go through the hive, we'll point out a few issues as they come up. Looking for the queen. The queen will be hopefully marked in that she'll be easy to identify with maybe a blue, a yellow or a white dot on her back. There will probably be about 40,000 to 50,000 bees anyway in the hive. So there's a lot of bees in it, but they are now in the winter preparation mode. So slowing down, and hopefully they have enough stores to see them through until next spring when we come to them again. So here we are now at one of our association hives here in the apiary. In the next couple of minutes now I'm going to be opening up this hive and we'll go through it nice and slowly and we'll point out the different various issues as we go along and hopefully we'll spot the queen. Okay, so now we're just taking off the roof here nice and gently. The bees, one thing they don't like is too much noise or vibrations. Okay, so here we have our bees on top of the crown board, which is the upper roof or underneath roof of the hive, if you like to call it. Just give them a little bit of smoke to let them know we're here and that we're coming in. These bees, they're well used to being handled, so there shouldn't be any issues this evening. The hive is well properlised, as in it's stuck down because they have it sealed up very tight for the winter. They don't like any drafts or damp getting in. Okay, I'm just checking the roof crown board now that my queen isn't walking around on it. And I don't see her. There's a bee with pollen on it, so there's still pollen coming in, which is mainly ivy pollen. Now I'm going to leave that down gently here now to one side. Our queen is in our hive. A little bit more smoke just to let them know we'll be going through it. As you can see, this is a commercial hive and it has 3, 6, 9, it has 12 frames of bees. All of these frames will have different things going on. Once I get them separated here, we'll take out one. It's important to be nice and gentle, not to crush any bees. Very well properlised, so the first hive or the first frame is always difficult to get out. So now here we have a very interesting frame of brood. We've actually found our queen on this and we've taken her out just for a second while we point out a few of the issues and the interesting parts of this frame. This is the brood frame. You can see here the circular pattern where the queen will lay during the summer. The empty parts in the centre here, the empty cells, these would have hatched. These bees would already have vacated. There are probably some of them running around there. She's now slowing down on laying, and accordingly as these bees hatch out, she will more than likely not relay in this frame, but they will fill it with honey. The honey is here all around the sides, nectar matured, the water content taken down, and the bees have that ready for eating during the winter should they need it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you the queen. We have her in a clip here. As you can see, the bees are very interested. They're all around her here. Queen bee is in here and she has a yellow dot on her. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I'm going to release her in a second onto the frame and you'll see her walk out. This here is called a queen catcher and we use it to ensure that our queen is kept safe during inspections. Some people like to use it and put the queen in here as we're doing inspections so we don't crush her or damage her in any way. Okay, so she's in here. I'm going to release her now back onto the frame and you'll see her running across the frame going back into her hive. Okay, she's about 1/3 larger. There she goes, yellow dot. And there she goes looking to know where was I, where am I going to? Looking for all her bees. I got it, Martin. Okay, so now you can see our queen where she's happiest, in amongst all her workers. All these workers here are female bees. Every single one of them that I can see so far anyway. As I said, the drones have now been kicked out, the male bees are kicked out. Their purpose is only to mate with new queens, and our queen is still walking in our frame. She's well used. This is actually communications going on here now. Our queen is meeting some of her retinue and they're communicating with her, touching the antennae. So I think we might actually put her back into her dark hive. They don't like sunlight, they like to be in the dark, warm coziness of the interior of the hive. Okay, so I'm happy that she's there and we have plenty of workers and plenty of stores in this hive. What I'm going to show you next now is, I mentioned the drones, the male bee. We were lucky enough to find one drone in this hive, a male bee. The male bee, his only purpose in life basically is to mate with new virgin queens when they emerge in different hives. So he's stingless, so I can pick him up with my bare hands. You'll see he's quite a lot larger than the female worker bees, about 1/3 again. He's got a huge, big, wide thorax and very strong wing muscles, because the fastest male bee obviously catches the queen first to mate, and that's evolution for you. So hopefully we can get him out without releasing him, and I can get him into my fingers here. He should climb up along. Okay, so we got him by the legs. So you can see his wings beating there. Look at the strength of him. He's huge bee compared to a female worker bee. You can see the difference in size. Here's the female. She'll probably try and sting me now because I'm holding her. But as I said, the male has no sting, and we use him at times to demonstrate to beginners how to catch and hold a bee and how to mark him. We might practice queen marking on a drone, so we know if the beginner actually damages a bee, he won't be, or if the queen isn't injured. It's just a drone. So the difference in size is quite comparable there. About 1/3 again, much bigger and broader, much longer, and he's only an eating and mating machine basically. We're finished our inspection. We're going to close up the hive, and to close up the hive I'm just going to smoke the bees gently so that they get down off the frames. We don't want to crush our bees. We love our bees, we don't want to kill any of them. So we smoke them gently for a couple of seconds, and they will gently run back down between the frames until the roof is back on and all is good. I have one frame to put back in, which I have here beside me. A frame of stores. Just shake the bees off so I don't roll any bees or crush them as I drop the frames in, because 12 frames in the hive is nice and tight, nice and snug for the winter. They were a very well behaved hive of bees actually. They didn't come hopping off any of us, so very happy with those. Okay, in my hand here you can see I'm using a tool that all beekeepers use. These are the two items that every beekeeper must have, as well as the suit obviously. This is called a smoker and a hive tool on my left hand. The smoker is an important piece of kit. You can see here I have it filled with dried grass. It basically gives a little bit of smoke which calms the bees and keeps them under control. Sometimes you need to use it, more times you won't need to use it. It helps the bees, and in that it gives them the sense that they're under threat, they need to eat as much honey, there's a fire coming, and they need to eat as much honey before they flee the scene. Another important piece of kit for the beekeeper is his hive tool. This is basically his third hand. This should never be out of your hand, because basically for a number of reasons. If you leave it down you won't find it again in the long grass, but it's essential when you're manipulating the hives. It has two ends, it has a sharp narrow end and it has a curved end. Very useful to separate frames which are stuck together with propolis. You need something as a lever, and the hive tool is ideal for that. Our bees are gone back down, crown board is next on. This is just an inner roof that keeps the bees nice and snug under the roof. You can see a hole here in the centre which they're coming up immediately. That's just a ventilation hole. It's also used maybe for feeding the bees if they need it, but I think these bees are good for the winter. The roof goes on next, making sure everything is nice and snug and square and no gaps around, and the bees will seal that over the winter. We've closed up the hive. Our bees are still working away. You'll see a lot of the bees here on the front of the entrance. They're fanning. They basically stand on the hive, they raise their bums in the air and they fan their wings. It's all a method of communication. Bees send a pheromone out, telling each other where the forage is or where the alarms are. Basically it's how they speak to one another, and that translates through the hive is how they communicate. So the bees inside the hive, they will get the message from the bees that are coming back, going out or whatever. It's another way they actually cool the hive as well. They'll actually fan air in and out of the hive to ventilate the hive or to mature the honey and nectar inside in the hive.
My name is Martin Nolan, and we're here in the Bulmer's Powerstown orchards, and the bees get quite a lot of their pollen and nectar from the apples during the apple season, but we have a little bee garden planted here so that at different seasons they get pollen and they get nectar. Here I have a couple of the plants, some teasel and some borage. You can see the blue of the borage. It's one they go mad for. I think blue is a particularly attractive colour for the bees. Behind me you can probably see the Rudbeckia there, and at different times they're getting nectar or pollen from the plants. Okay, here we have some pyracantha. Be careful with your hands because the thorns would go right through them. Very beautiful plant this time of the year. Again, it's one that there's a lot of prolific flowering on, and the bees pick up the pollen, and it also looks very beautiful in the bee garden here. So here we have a little bit of Rudbeckia, and it's coming towards the end of its season now, but for the last 5 or 6 weeks the bees will have been extracting a little bit of pollen and maybe a little bit of nectar as well, and it just looks lovely at the corner of the apiary here on a bright sunny evening. This is the blackthorn. People will know this from sloes, and it's one of the first things that will bloom in the early part of the season, so the bees will get pollen at that time of the year. Here in South Tipperary Apiary and Powerstown, we've embraced technology, and what you're looking at there is a scale hive. So at the bottom you have a weighing scale, and at the top you have a little solar panel that charges a battery there constantly. There's a SIM card in the weighing scale, and every night at 9 o'clock, the way we have it set up, it sends a text to one of the beekeepers telling them the weight that the bees have put on during the day. So it's a useful sort of measure of how the season is progressing.
Okay, just before we finish up, here we have what we call a nucleus hive, and it's basically a colony of bees, a smaller colony of bees that might have been produced this year, obviously were produced this year, and it's what we normally introduce our beginners to so that they can bring this home in the spring, start off with a small colony of bees and watch them grow and develop. This is just a basic brood box and a roof. Small colony of bees starting up. Here beside it we have another nucleus, slightly more advanced, but basically the same elements again: floor, brood box, super for them to collect some stores for the winter, or maybe take a crop of honey. There's a little feeder on that to give them a little supplement feed for the winter, and those are then our nucleus colonies, as well as our national hives which you saw earlier. Just to show you that sometimes things don't always go to plan in an apiary, this was meant to be an empty box, but as I saw earlier there was bees at the entrance, so I said I'd open the roof, and lo and behold, this is what we found. Okay, bees have obviously decided they want to do their own thing, and they're taking it onto themselves. They've made their wild comb, and here you see it all, and that is the natural comb that bees would make in the wild in a tree cavity under a roof of a house, and you see how they keep it all so regular and even. Now, I'm not sure about this. I would imagine there's no queen here, so it won't be viable for the winter.
Okay, people are often worried about stings and bees and how dangerous they are. Normally, you can see what Declan is wearing here. If you put on proper gear as a beekeeper, you're quite safe. Yes, bees get aggressive when certain circumstances, cold, they don't like being opened up during the cold or the wet. And sometimes if you're rough with them and you drop things, the bees get very excited. But normally with proper dress and attire, you will get a few stings on the finger. Sometimes beekeepers do, but generally speaking you can actually work all day with the bees without getting too many or too many stings.